What's up guys? How have you been? It's been a while. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a roller coaster ride of a year for me, hence the disappearing act, but I'm back and I'm happy to be back, happy to be filming, happy to be researching. So without further babbling from me, let's get right into the video. Today we're going to be talking about the very controversial Robert Johnson, the man who sold his soul to the devil. First things first, let's talk about Robert Johnson and how he was brought to life. He had actually a very weird upbringing. His mother's name was Julie Dodds and she was married to Charles Dodds. He was a quite successful carpenter and farmer in his community, which was Hazelhurst. So the KKK was quite big in those days. And because of this, some of the white folks in town resented Charles Dodds for his success because they felt like, he's black, he doesn't deserve it, yada, 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 yada. Because of this, Charles Dodds had to flee from Hazelhurst to Memphis because of the lynch mob that was after him. So Julie was left alone with 10 kids. And, some women just can't be alone for that long, so she ended up having an affair with Noah Johnson, who ended up impregnating her, and that is where Robert Johnson came from. It seems like Robert's mother sent him around a lot. I don't know if she didn't have a good relationship with him. Honestly, I don't know the story there, but she sent him around a lot. He barely lived with her in his early childhood years. There was actually a point where she sent him to go live with Charles, her former husband. And Robert ended up living with Charles for quite an amount of time. When he was 8 years old, he went back to his mother's house, and in this time his mother got remarried to a man named Dusty Willis. Now let me tell you guys, Dusty Willis seemed to be quite a jackass. Robert didn't show any interest in farming. He wanted to do music, and Dusty couldn't accept it because he wanted Robert to work on the farm. That was just the life that he was supposedly destined for, and because of this, Robert and Dusty had a lot of disputes over the years, and it seems like Dusty actually abused Robert at some point, and physically laid hands on him because he did not want to do the work on the farm. So Robert didn't have a great upbringing. He didn't have a perfect home or a loving home at the very least, or even a stable home. So he was searching for his own independence, basically his whole life, because something he didn't have. He wanted to be him. He didn't want to be bound to what other people's expectations was of him. He wanted to live his life according to his rules. So when Robert was 18 years old, he fell in love with a 15-year-old girl named Virginia. They ended up getting married, and Robert actually vowed to Virginia that he would stop his pursuit of a music career, because he wanted to look after his family and he wanted to be a support system for them, which he couldn't really be with music at the time because blues wasn't really considered good music for most people, especially the church-going folk back then. They said that blues was the devil worshipping music, and that if you played blues you were a devil worshipper, and sometimes people, religious fanatics, can be fanatics. So he ended up vowing to her that he won't play music, and he didn't while they were together. She got pregnant, and when she was 8 months pregnant, she left to go to her grandmother's house to go have a baby there. When he thought it was about time for her to have the baby, he went to her grandmother's house to go see her and go see the baby. But sadly, he got a terrible surprise, and his wife and baby was already buried. Sadly, Virginia died during childbirth, and neither her nor the baby made it. He loved Virgie. He was basically his first step into adulthood, marrying her and having a child with her. That was him taking this step and being like, okay, I'm going to be an adult, I'm going to be responsible. And I feel like it's something that he genuinely wanted. He wanted to be a father and he wanted to be a husband. But when that ship sailed, to put it bluntly, um, he decided that he's just going to move on with his music career. There's no point in being a good boy anymore. There's no reason for not playing music anymore. There's no reason to be responsible anymore because he doesn't have anybody to take care of except for himself, and he wanted to pursue his dream of music. So the person that he looked up most in blues music was Sunhouse, and Sunhouse actually ended up moving to a town near Robert in 1930. So this is just after his wife passed away. Robert ended up spending basically every weekend at the bar where Sunhouse was performing. He just looked at the way that he was playing and he just wanted to be like Sunhouse. He wanted to be successful. Sunhouse said that every time when him and Willie, the guy who used to play with him, every time they would put down their guitars, Robert would rush over and he'd pick up the guitar and he'd try to play. And the people in the bar was just, they weren't having it because Robert was terrible. He was terrible. He couldn't play and everybody just said that he makes them crazy and he's just making a noise. And so Sunhouse had a lot of complaints from the people in the bar, and he ended up actually asking Robert to just put down the guitar because you might break a string. I mean, that's how bad he was. And after Sunhouse told Robert this, I think he didn't take it very good because I mean this is his mentor. He's saying that he's making a noise and he's gonna, he's irritating the people in the bar. And it's his dream is to play music, and I think in his mind he maybe thought that he was good. So he ended up walking out of the bar, not very happy, and he said, "I'll show you guys." And he disappeared for a year. Now, people say that in that year he actually went back to his hometown. People say that the reason for him going back to Hazelhurst was because he wanted to find his biological father. And he didn't, but he found the next best thing. He met Ike Zimmerman. Now it's 1 year later, and Robert is feeling pretty confident. He's like, I got this. I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna show them what I can do. So Robert ended up walking into a bar where Sunhouse and Willie was playing, and Sunhouse said they were just shocked to see him. He had a guitar strapped to his back, and I mean, they haven't seen him for a year, so they actually just thought that he probably just decided to give up, just leave the music thing. It's not for him. He's terrible at it. But no, and Sunhouse actually ended up mocking him, and he's like, "Boy, where are you going with that thing? You're gonna noise the people to death?" And so Robert was like, "No man, just give me a chance. I've been practicing." And so Sunhouse decides to take pity on his poor soul, and he's like, "Okay, fine, get up there." Robert ends up getting on stage, and the first thing that they notice is that instead of 6 strings on his guitar, he has 7. Now, that was not a thing. Nobody was doing that. That was like totally unique to Robert at that time. When Robert started playing, the people were blown away. They couldn't believe it because this is the same guy that was noising them to death a year ago, and now all of a sudden he's here, he's playing, and it's magical. They said that his guitar had more of a piano sound to it than a guitar sound. It was just totally different from anything anybody else was doing at that time. Sunhouse actually went on to say, and I quote, "When he was finished, all our mouths were standing open." They just couldn't believe it. Within a year and a half, Robert Johnson was doing things that his mentors couldn't even do. He was doing things that his mentors couldn't even explain the reasoning behind it. And to make matters even weirder, When people would watch Robert play, he would turn his back to them, or he would just stop playing altogether. Like, he didn't want anybody to figure out what he was doing, what made him so extremely good and so extremely talented. Around this time, Robert got another girl pregnant. Her name was Virgie Kane, and she was a 15-year-old schoolgirl, highly frowned upon. And her parents did not approve of the relationship. They did not approve of the devil music. They just weren't having it. And Robert wanted Virgie to go with him, but her parents refused. And I mean, she was 15. What was she gonna do? So she stayed with her parents, and Robert ended up leaving again, to just do his music. I mean, what else is he supposed to do? He left and he started touring with Johnny Shaw's, and I mean, it was good. He had a small fan base, but it wasn't what he wanted. He wanted to be famous. He wanted fame and he wanted fortune. And Robert ended up getting in touch with H.C. Spears. Now, he worked for ARC record label, and basically Robert talked to him about getting his music published. Robert started recording November 1936, and he recorded up until the summer of 1937. And yeah, like I said, he had a small fan base, nothing famous, nothing crazy. Just there was people who liked his music, but not everybody knew of him. But he was pretty popular with local people and bars that he used to play at, and he made a bit of money, so he could be self-efficient. Robert Johnson was found dead the 16th of August 1938. There was no cause of death written on his death certificate. There was a lot of theories, but eyewitnesses said that the night before he died, he was flirting with a married woman whose husband happened to be at the bar. So, not very smart, my friend. So, apparently, this woman's husband gave Robert a drink out of an unsealed whiskey bottle. And so, his one friend, that was also a musician, Honey Boy, he saw this and he said to Robert, he actually smacked the drink out of Robert's hand, and he's like, dude, you can't just accept an open drink from anybody. You don't know what could be in there. And Robert was outraged. He was like, dude, you don't smack a drink out of my hand. Like, what? Who do you think you are? And he was so pissed at Honey Boy for doing this. And he actually ended up accepting another glass. That whole night he was sitting like slumped over in his chair, and he wasn't looking himself, and he wasn't looking like energetic like he usually does, or but at any means he wasn't looking himself. So they said that he basically took 3 days to die. He was in a lot of pain, and he was slumped over howling like a wolf. So the theory is that he was murdered, and this woman's husband gave him a poison drink. Now, of course, that's not the only theory out there. The most boring theory of them all is that Robert actually had syphilis that he contracted from his parents, and that he was basically born with it and it just killed him. The other one is that he had an ulcer or something and it ended up killing him. So, all the boring theories aside, what most people believe to happen, and I can't blame them, I mean, everything adds up if you think about him selling his soul to the devil. And we'll get to that. Everything adds up. But I can't say, maybe that's just the image that he wanted to portray. We will never know. I all remember the year that Robert disappeared without a trace, and people thought that he was going to go look for his dad. Well, what happened was he went in search of his father, but instead he found Ike Zimmerman. Now, Ike Zimmerman was also a musician and a guitarist, and he ended up being Robert's mentor. So they would go at midnight, according to locals of Hazelhurst, Mississippi. They would go at midnight into the cemetery, go sit on a tombstone, facing each other, and they would play guitar to the ghosts. Anyway, I do think that Robert could have gotten involved in a bit of hoodoo because of his songs that he wrote. It was very hoodoo and it was very devilish in nature. He wrote very creepy songs, for instance, Hellhound on My Tail, and we'll get into the lyrics momentarily, but if you actually go and you listen to the songs and you read the lyrics, some of it is very gibberish, like especially Hellhound on My Tail. I feel like his mind got a bit foggy at that stage. As it is said, if a hellhound is on your tail, you do get foggy and you hallucinate and you hear them everywhere. So the theory is that when he disappeared, so we know that he played in a graveyard with Ike, but what we don't know is if he actually did, if him and Ike were in hoodoo. The theory is that he went to the crossroads and he played his guitar and until the devil showed up. And the devil showed up, he attached the extra string to the guitar and he tuned it and he played it for a bit and he handed it back to Robert. The fact that he got so good within a year and that he was so evolved and the adding of the extra string, I think that's just what makes people think that something supernatural had to occur, because within a year he was better than any other blues player like ever. So I'm gonna read you the lyrics of Hellhound on My Tail. And the days keep worrying me. There's a hellhound on my tail. There's a hellhound on my tail. A hellhound on my tail. You sprinkled hot foot powder around my door. All around my door. You sprinkled hot foot powder all around your daddy's door. And then he goes on to talk about his rambling mind, and it's just creepy. And a lot of his songs has this kind of creepy undertone with death and hell and the devil, and that's basically all his songs were about. Now, hot foot powder is actually, in hoodoo magic, it is considered to keep away hellhounds. So, I don't know, the fact that he knew so much about it. There's also the theory that the reason that he did this was because of everybody always telling him that he played devil music. And I think it also comes back to Virginia's parents saying that her dying is his fault because of his devil music. So I think he could have been fronting that basically to just show everybody a big F you, like, I don't know, but at the same time, it could be that he sold his soul to the devil. And it could be that there was actually a hellhound on his trail and that it was time to pay up. However, that is a very popular theory that he sold his soul to the devil. And I think that most people do believe that he did. So if he did, we will never know. But the theory is there and the possibility is definitely there. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I definitely enjoyed making it for you guys. And I will see you guys in my next video. I'm so happy to be back, and thank you for liking and subscribing and commenting in the time that I was away. I did gain a few more subscribers that I thought I wouldn't. My last video actually did very well. I didn't expect it. So thank you guys for watching my videos. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for liking. It really means a lot to me. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.